Hi everyone, and today I'm talking with John, and he's a prominent writer and blogger on the beautiful game with Mundo Albiceleste. It's a blog all about Argentinian football, and he's also written many articles for such sites as A Football Pink and In Bed with Maradona, for example, two sites I'm really interested in and I follow. We're going to talk about the upcoming World Cup and all things Argentinian football. So, welcome, John. Thanks for joining me this evening or this night for you, I think. Um, John, could you just give me a background to why you follow Argentinian football and where did you get the passion for Argentina?
Okay, first things first, I'd like to say hello, everybody, and it's an honor to be a part of this show. So basically, how did it all started? It goes back to 1986. I was only 6 year old back then, and what happened was my uncle was very keen on trying to get me in love with the beautiful game
Hmm.
because I was 6 year old. I had other interests in life, so he wanted me to love the beautiful game as much as he did. So he sort of like forced me to watch the England Argentina game,
Hmm.
in which Maradona scored two. I was okay. Maybe there was one beautiful goal, the other one was controversial, but that game changed my life. And since then onwards, I've been following Argentina uh, on the international stage ever since.
That was a good start. That was a good start. What would have happened if England had won?
I don't know. I don't know. You never know, but all we can say is that the rest is history.
And so, how did you get writing about Argentina and football in general?
Well, it all started in the 2006 World Cup. I think that was the first World Cup where blogging came to the forefront in terms of. Uh, I mean, I back then we never had Facebook or Twitter, so it's pretty much blogging was the first platform in terms of social media interaction at the World Cup. So basically, an Argentine correspondent who was working with ESPN SoccerNet at that time.
Hmm.
He initiated the blog, and I was a regular person who used to comment on his articles.
Hmm.
And eventually, I was invited to join part of the team in writing for that blog. So it's been like 12 years. This is going to be my fourth World Cup,
Mm.
basically since I started writing about Argentina football.
Mm. Oh, that's excellent, excellent. And has that enabled you to go and follow Argentina in any of the World Cups, or have you had a chance to visit Argentina?
I haven't yet. It's still in the pipeline. It's still something I'm working on. But luckily enough for me, because since I'm in Malaysia,
Hmm.
last year I had a chance to watch the national team playing in Singapore because they were down there for a friendly game.
Okay.
So that was a very great opportunity for me to actually watch them play.
Okay, excellent, excellent, very good. And did it live up to your expectations?
Not as the one that I've experienced in 1997
Hmm.
because we hosted the World Under 20 World Cup.
Mm.
And in that World Under 20 side, we had the likes of Aymar, Riquelme, and Cambiaso. So I would say that was a much better experience than the one I had in Singapore because it Messi wasn't there,
Hmm.
and it was sort of like an experimental side that was uh, coached by Sampaoli,
Hmm.
and pretty much a walk in the park game. So it wasn't really sort of like the kind of experience you want when it comes to watching Argentina.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that Malaysian under 21s because I'm from Ireland and Ireland was in that championship, so most Irish people know about that championships because Ireland came third, and which was it's their best ever position in any of our age groups in football. Let's just get into it then with the World Cup. So, John, what's your opinion then on Argentina's chances? How do you think they'll get on this year?
Well, it's a bit tough for me to say. Even though, yes, it's Argentina, we come in the World Cup as one of the favorites, one of the most exciting team to watch. But judging by what has been going on with the national team in recent times, it hasn't really given me that sort of confidence that I have, as opposed to 2014. So, with a very tough group, we
Hmm.
have Iceland, we have Croatia, we have Nigeria again. It's very hard to say what is our chances. It could go on as worse as what happened in 2002, where we got knocked out of the first stage, or to as fantastic as what happened in 2014, where we go all the way to the final. It can go anywhere in between. If they make it out of the group stage, I think it's going to be, in a very, very tight situation. But I'm pretty confident they can make it out. But as I said, it's somewhere in between the worst and the best.
Yeah, it's always kind of hard to tell with Argentina which team turns up. I was talking to an Icelandic blogger over the weekend, and he was very confident that Iceland would take 3 points off Argentina in the first game.
If I'm an Icelandic person or a fan of Iceland football, I would say the same thing as well. Because if Argentina, one thing's for sure, we know there's. It's not the first time where we are capable of starting in the World Cup on the wrong foot. 1990 against Cameroon, 82 against Belgium. So we have that sort of history behind us. So, if I'm Iceland, I would say, our chances are as good as anything to take 3 points.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. Argentina do start slowly, don't they? If we go through each game, I mean, would you be brave enough to give a score prediction for each of the games?
All right, first game is Iceland. I think we can win this game, but it's going to be, an odd 1-0 or a 2-1 victory, something like that. Against Croatia, I'm looking at most likely it's going to be a draw. But, we can still win that game, provided it depends on how Croatia turns out. But they have a very, very talented side. And I think, I would say we can settle for a draw there. Against Nigeria, I would still say, we can win the game. But then again, this is perhaps, I think, I might be pessimistic to say this, but I think Nigeria will finally get a win against us, but we will progress further.
I mean, I think it's probably the toughest group in the World Cup. I think that one, it really could go down to the last games. The coach is George Sampioli, I guess. Sampioli. My pronunciation is not great. I don't really know I don't know anything about him. So could you give me just a heads up on who he is and what kind of style of coaching does he do? What's his method of coaching? What kind of manager is he? How does he set up his teams?
All right. Frankly speaking, Sampaoli is also been an unknown quantity, only because his name only started to rise following Chile success at the 2014 World Cup, and a year later they actually won the Copa America, their first ever international title. In terms of his background, I would say he has made his name in Peruvian football before moving to Chile, and where he was actually the assistant to Marcelo Bielsa, and subsequently I think he took over the national team. Sorry, he wasn't the assistant to Bielsa, but I think subsequently he was one of the coach that took over from Bielsa. And a lot have been said that his style of play, his style of football, his philosophy is very much similar to what Bielsa is, which is possession football, attacking possession football. And that's how he much likes to set up his team. With Chile, with the kind of players they have, like your Sanchez, your Vidal and all that, he has managed to implement that imperfectly. With Argentina, it still hasn't really, we still haven't really seen that sort of style into full effects, because the team is still very much relying on Messi. It's sort of like Messi's carrying the whole team.
Yeah.
So, it remains to be seen whether, in the World Cup, whether all will fall into place.
So as you were saying, like with Messi, I mean, it's a lot of pressure. It seems to be always a lot of pressure on his shoulders. I mean, does that kind of cause division sometimes in the team?
Well, it's hard to say. There are a lot of rumors going around about the Messi's fan club, and all that behind the national team. But these are all hearsay, media sensationalism. So I really don't know how far these things are true. But yes, the pressure is definitely on him to perform at this World Cup, which could likely be his last ever World Cup. I think we all know for a fact that the pressure is also because the expectation in Argentina that he needs to emulate what Maradona did in '86, try to win it on his own and all that. But I don't believe in that. When I look back at '86, it wasn't just about Maradona. There was a quality in that team.
Hmm.
And that's something that I think people need to come to term. For Messi to really shine with the national team, the system, the players around him, everything needs to be right.
Mm.
And if everything falls into place, if Sampaoli gets it right, there's no telling that what kind of magic he might produce in Russia.
Mm. I mean, he did as much as he could in the last World Cup, and perhaps not in the later stages, but definitely he dragged them into the final more or less. I think anyway. But does that include, like you said, everything has to fall into place? Does that include a fit Aguero as a strike partner?
Obviously, because Aguero, even the last World Cup, he came almost not in terms of fitness, wasn't really 100%. So
Hmm.
yes, definitely, these little factors play a part in trying to put together a team that will allow Messi to shine at the World Cup.
Mm.
So when Aguero's injury happened, when Biglia's injury happened, it definitely caused some concern for the Argentina national team.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Um, right, let's see what else do I have. So the squad list was out the last few days. Is there any players that perhaps we wouldn't know as well, that maybe like are young players or up and coming players that maybe you'd like to point out that we should look out for?
Well, the probably the best young player that I can think of that most likely will have a chance to go to the World Cup is Lautaro Martinez, who is currently playing with Racing Club.
Hmm.
He's been on fire form in the Argentine league, and
Okay.
I think that he's one to look out for in the future.
Hmm.
Uh, possibly after the World Cup, he's going to go to Inter Milan. I think the deal is almost 95% done. He's
Hmm.
heading there.
Hmm.
So yeah, he's the player that definitely I would say, in terms of young player, something for everyone to look out for in Argentina.
What's his position? Is he a striker?
Yes, he's a striker.
Okay, okay. And it's funny they always go to Inter Milan. It seems Inter Milan always get these uh, Italian or Argentinian players, up and coming ones. So how's the build up for the World Cup? It seems in the friendlies, what I have here, 6-1 to Spain. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. It is. There's nothing talking about it. I think if you ask me personally, maybe the scoreline was a little bit surprised, but yes, I was expecting us to lose that game because I think Spanish football has advanced way technically than Argentine football, and Spanish players, they are super talented.
Hmm.
When you think of, they can even put up a B team against us and get a good result there.
Hmm.
So, so I'm not surprised at all.
But
So yes, in terms of the build-up, it hasn't been really a positive.
Mhm.
As I mentioned earlier, Sampaoli still hasn't managed to get the right formula for Argentina.
Mm.
But we don't know what he's working behind the scenes. So we can only look forward to the first game against Iceland to give us some clear indication just how far our World Cup campaign is going to go.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. Um, do you have these in Malaysia? Do you, the Panini stickers?
Wow, you're hurting my feeling actually. We don't really have them actually. I'm actually waiting for them to arrive, and so far it doesn't look good at all. I don't think we're going to have it this time. We had it in the last World Cup,
Okay.
but it doesn't look like we're going to get it this time.
Why not? Why not?
I don't know. I mean, maybe the publication or whichever company is supposed to be
Okay.
distributing it didn't get the license or something. I have no idea.
So I'll just open up a few stickers. We can talk about the
Okay.
teams. It's just it's rather than me opening all these packs on my own.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Apparently, I remember when I was a little boy, you used to get a lot of these stickers in a pack, but now you only get about five. You know. So the first one, Casemiro from Brazil, but
Mhm.
I don't know who he is. But how do you think Brazil will do? The old rivals of Argentina.
Well, I think Brazil football has it turned around tremendously since the last World Cup. I think after the loss against Germany, there was a lot of concern about the future of Brazilian football. Whether is it going on the right track. Whether their league is producing the kind of talent that Brazil used to produce.
Hmm.
But I think most importantly, what Brazil has done is they appointed a fantastic coach in Tite. I
Hmm.
think he has really turned around the national team tremendously.
Hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if Brazil go all the way and win it this World Cup. In fact, if I were to put my money on a South American team, I'll
Hmm.
go for Brazil.
Oh, that's sacrilege, is it?
It is, but one's got to be reasonable when making comments.
Yeah. I'm looking at. I've no. I opened 2 packs. You only get about 5 stickers, but I've no Argentinian players here. I've 2 Nigerians, Victor Moses and John Obi Mikel. I think he's pretty good. Um, I'd say the Nigerian game would be pretty physical. It always. I mean, they're a strong team, Nigeria.
Yep, yeah, Nigeria is going to be a very physical team. Even the last World Cup, they gave Argentina some scare. Even
Hmm.
though we were comfortably winning, but they came back strongly. It was only like a very tight scoreline, 3-2. In
Mm.
fact, whenever Argentina play against Nigeria, it hasn't been a one-sided affair. It's always been a very tightly contested, whether it was in 2014, 10, or even before that in 2002 and 1994. So I'm expecting the same sort of kind of outcome, which an odd goal is going to make the difference.
Mm. Yeah, I got my first world class player now. I'm after opening Shaqiri.
Okay,
I
Switzerland.
I think he's world class, but I don't think everybody agrees with me with that one. But so generally, John, who do you fancy for the World Cup? You said Brazil. Do you have any dark horses that we should look out for? A team that maybe um, might surprise us?
Well, if I were to pick a dark horse, I would like to see Belgium
Mm.
because I think it's a generation of exciting players coming together. The last World Cup, I think they gave a good impression. They went all the way to the quarterfinals. I think it was only a Gonzalo Higuain goal that made the difference on that day.
Hmm.
So if Martinez, as the coach, if he gets it right with Belgium, with the
Hmm.
talents they have, I wouldn't be surprised. They could be the dark horse.
Hmm.
Another team that I would say possibility is Portugal.
Hmm.
Even though it's been regarded as a Cristiano Ronaldo plus 10, but I think they have much exciting talent in that team, and I think winning the Euros have gave a huge amount of boost in that national team. So I wouldn't surprise they could be another one that could go all the way.
What's the feeling then? And do you have an idea of what's the feeling like in Argentina then? I mean, our Argentinian fan. I mean, it's been how is that? 16 years? No, no, maybe more. 1986. That's a long time. I mean, what's the expectations in Argentina? Are people is that's too long to win a World Cup, or they're just realistic, or what's their feelings? Do you know?
Well, we haven't won a World Cup since 1986, so that's 32 years. We haven't won a major international title since 1993, Copa America 93.
Mm.
And between those years, we went through like 8 different major finals and haven't won a single one of them.
Mm.
And we haven't scored a goal in a major final since Pablo Aimar scored against Brazil in the 2005 Confederation Cup.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's been a long time since Argentina actually made a fantastic impression when it comes to a major final.
Hmm.
But in terms of the passion, football in Argentina is equivalent to religion. The football culture there is just huge and strong. So I don't think it's going to change anything even this World Cup. The expectation is still high. And if I can recall, shortly after the World Cup draw was made or something like that, Argentina had the second highest number of application for the World Cup tickets
Mm.
behind Russia, the host. So
Mm.
that says a lot about what is expected from Argentina in
Mm.
terms of the national team, the World Cup, and all that. So yes, so it's going to be mental there. I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Icelandic blogger was telling me that the Argentinian game is sold out, and the 2 other Iceland games you can still get tickets for them. So Argentina will always be a big draw. Um, let me see. I mean, I do have a beer blog. I don't know, like, do you drink the Argentinian beer Quilmes when you're looking at them play?
Well, it's one of my bucket lists. Somehow or other, Quilmes hasn't arrived in Malaysia. We have some imported beers here, but so far, anything from South America hasn't arrived yet.
Okay, maybe sometime I should send you a few.
Sure, no problem. Please do.
So apart from the World Cup, then, what about Malaysian football, John? I don't know. I mean, what's the situation with Malaysia? Or do they have a decent team, or how do they do generally in Asia?
Well, Malaysia, we are passionate about football, but
Hmm.
unfortunately, that passion in terms of the national team results doesn't go hand in hand. It's been a very poor run for a long time. We only recently won our first international game by beating a Bhutan side. a second string Bhutan side.
Okay.
Whereas we haven't won a game in almost like a year plus or two. We haven't actually won a single international game last year, so it's
Wow.
been pretty bad on the international stage. So we are hoping for a fresh start, maybe at the end of the year, because we'll be hosting the Southeast Asian Football Championship. So we're hoping to see that we can have a good run there. That will give us a good start because, I'm not sure whether you heard about in the news. Well, the country has just gone through a tremendous change over the last 1 week. We have a new government. We have a new government which has taken over from the previous government that has been around for 61 years. So it's it's a breath of fresh air right now. So we are hoping that maybe football can also play hand in hand in this new chapter of Malaysia.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the only time I have ever seen Malaysia on the box on the TV was years ago, like maybe 20 years ago. I remember England played Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, years ago. I think it was 4-2 to England, but I remember looking at it and I thought, wow, Malaysia's not too bad, you know.
Oh, okay. It's interesting that you remember that game. Yeah, that was one of the highest profile friendly match we had in Kuala Lumpur. Yes. Yeah, that was a long time ago. That was in 1991. Well, it's interesting that you still remember that. It was too good for us, but the fact that we can actually score 2 goals against that, that says a lot about the standard of football back then as compared to now it is.
Yeah, yeah. But I guess you just raised your game, I guess. And what about your national league? I mean, do Malaysian teams do they do well in the Asian Championships, the Asian Champions League, or your Asian Europa version?
Okay. Basically, next year will be an exciting year for us. Winner of the Malaysian will have a chance to compete in the Asian Champions League, and because in previous years we are not allowed to compete there because in the AFC they have a different setup when on terms of which countries can send clubs to the Champions League or which can send to the AFC Cup. It's like in Europe, maybe you can say, the top nations will go to the Champions League, whereas the lower ranked nations, where the league winners or cup winners will play in the Europa League. That's the setup here in Malaysia. Well, we have a club called Johor Darul Takzim, JDT, which has pretty much done well to carry Malaysian football, to carry the flag of Malaysian football. They won the 2015 AFC Cup. And it's a very interesting team because, the approach is a very, I would say, the most professional team in Malaysia. They actually signed Pablo Aimar in 2014 for a short term. Wow, so that says a lot about how visionary the club is. So yes, that's pretty much how Malaysian club, in terms of the club football scene, is like. So we are hoping that maybe next year when they go to the Champions League, we're not expecting them to go far because when you're trying to compete against clubs from Japan, South Korea, China, Australia, and all that, it's going to be too much to ask, but at least the experience, the exposure could help in a long way.
Okay. So John, that's pretty much it. I don't want to take up any more of your time. So if people want to find some of your work online, do you have a web page or a Facebook page, or where can people find your stuff online, the stuff you write?
Well, I think the easiest way is to look for me at Twitter. My alias is Sivan John with what do you call that, an underscore at the back, or just type Sivan John. I think I'm the only person that you'll find on Twitter with that with that name. So that's pretty much the best way for people to interact with me. Of course, as you mentioned earlier, I have a blog called Mundo Albiceleste. I would also encourage everyone to check out on that because we provide a beautiful platform in terms of Argentine football news in English, which is, there's not many outlets out there that you can find news about Argentina football in English. So we are one of them. So these are the two places where people can look out for me. But I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. So just type the name, you look for me. Feel free to add me. I'm quite open, and I like to have football discussion with fans from all over the world.
It's quite an impressive website, I have to say. And you're right. If you Google, like Argentina football blog or in English, yours comes up pretty prominent. So I'll leave a link to all those websites, etc. So there's nothing else I can say, John. Thanks for your time. Thanks for giving me an insight into Argentinian football via Malaysia. And we'll see. Maybe Argentina will get lucky this year. Maybe.
Hopefully, and thank you so much for having me as well. Yeah, it's a great honor to be talking to football with you.
Thanks for staying up so late to take my call.
Oh, it's all right, no problem at all. Okay.
Okay, John. Nice to talk to you.
All right.
Bye bye.
Ciao, ciao.